Hello and welcome back to Rapid Flow. Today I'm going to be showing you what I think is one of the biggest studio hacks you can do. It's unconventional, but it will help you get better mixes with the equipment you already have. All right, let's get going. So what I'm going to show you today is in essence how you can use monitor calibration software or just a random normal EQ to get way better mixes using monitors or headphones. And stick around till the end of this video because I'm going to be sharing the curve also that I use to get these AIAIAI wireless headphones to sound like flat studio monitors so you can use them for making your mix downs without having cables attached to your head. By the way, if you like the kick that you're hearing in this track, I've actually made a free download that you can get from the first comment and description of this video, where you can download all the analog kicks of Rapid Flow, all the melodic techno kicks of Rapid Flow, and my personal kick drum collection, which is continually being updated. So yeah, if you want to have access to analog kicks recorded with outboard gear from machines like the 808, 909, Vermona DRM1 and whatnot, check the link and you can download them for free. So what you're looking at now is SoundID reference. I'm sure most of you will know it. And this is the sound straight out of the DAW. But let me show you now what it's done to optimize these speakers in my room. Then I'm going to show you how I actually tweak this to get much better results. And you can do this with any kind of speaker measuring software, but you can also just do this with an EQ. Okay, let me show you. So this is the optimizations that it's done for my room, and even though it does improve the sound, how I actually use it is like this. That's how I actually use it. That's the flat curve. The reason why this works way better for me is because I have a preference for sound systems to sound warm and fat and not be too piercing in the mids and highs. However, if I were to mix my tracks with the standard settings of this EQ curve, I tend to mix my tracks too dark and add too much low mid boost, which then my amazing mastering engineer Daniel Zuderberg of Earthbound Mastering has to counter because of my listening habits. And at some point I had the realization that actually tweaking your EQ curve, whether it's in SonarWorks or just by adding an EQ to your output that obviously you don't bounce through but you monitor through, is a huge change in how well you can get your system to sound in your room, and through that also get much better mixes. So the way that I do this is that I will listen to my reference tracks. Let me bring one up here. Okay, so this is a track that's been professionally mastered, and I know what it sounds like on earbuds and headphones and on some sound systems that I've played it on. And when I play this track in my studio and I don't correct the EQ curve, it feels a bit bright and a bit thin. Let me show you. And how I actually want to hear this track in my studio is like this. So what I've in essence gone and done is just added some EQ points to tweak the mids and the highs to bring them back a bit, and added a little bit of warmth and low end boost down here. And actually I would recommend you to maybe stop correcting it at a 0 crossover point around here so that you're not messing with the ultra deep low end stuff, maybe around here. And I do the same at the super high frequencies, or it would also it does a weird boost in the highs that I don't want the SonarWorks measuring thing. So I'm trying to just focus on this central area here. You can also do this just using any kind of EQ plugin. So what I would recommend you to do is grab a high quality EQ plugin, drop it on your output, and post all of your processing, and post if you're using a spectrum analyzer like I do. Just tweak it so that the sound you're getting from some known references matches your listening habits. So we're not using this anymore. I'm just gonna bypass it here as well so that this is super clear. So now we're listening to this master track, and what I would do is tweak it something along these lines. I want to shelf here so I don't add unnecessary things. I want to do a little warmth boost because I know I tend to mix too bassy, and I want a nice low shelf around here. I'm going to drop the output level a bit so I'm not clipping the EQ processing. Okay, let me bypass this now and show you the difference this makes. Like this was just a quick one now, but it's close to what SoundID reference is giving me on my tune preset. You see that? And you could actually skip between also. Let me do this. More along these lines, something like that. And the thing about SoundID reference is that it has a couple of disadvantages. Well, it does phase alignment also. So it tries to get your phase, so it's more audible. And when you use it as a standalone plugin through your whole system, which is how I usually do it because I stream a lot of stuff, it adds latency. Right now, this is 0 latency, which is awesome. And a very important point, if you're going to do this with FabFilter or some similar high quality EQ, I mean, you could do this with the Ableton default EQ. It's also really good. Make sure that it's set to 0 latency, or you're going to incur massive latency during your production session, which is a huge pain. Like if I make this linear phase and I hover over here in the left lower corner, you can see now it's introducing 106 milliseconds of latency to my set, which would make it impossible to use like in real time with faders and stuff, which is my thing. So make sure that when you use it, you're using 0 latency. I'm not actually quite sure. Let's have a look. Natural phase. What kind of latency does that introduce? 6.7. That would be workable. But honestly, this is more just about like frequency correction stuff. I think 0 latency is fine. How I suss this is that I own the Slate VSX headphones, which I trust, which combined with the VSX software are really good. But then I discovered these very nice AIAIAI headphones, which are wireless and which are amazing to, you know, be able to move around the studio when you're producing, but they didn't sound as flat as the VSX, so I didn't really trust them for mixing. So I said, well, okay, why don't I try to tune these using the SonarWorks software so that they actually sound like my known reference, which is the Slate VSX headphones. Of course, they're not going to be perfect, but what I realized is I could get close enough. So let me show you the curve for that now. The start for this is you need to load on SonarWorks the AIAIAI TMA Studio blah 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 wired profile. It's the only one that comes close. And then this is the curve AIAIAI flatter as VSX that I've created, that actually, you know, I did this by like plugging one set of headphone into the other and switching them until I got them really close. And this is actually sounding so close that when I travel now, this is all I take. I can trust them. So let me show you, as promised, the curve that I use for this. I do a low shelf boost around 60 Hertz of 1 dB. I do a bell boost at 108 Hertz of, again, 1 dB. I do a bell cut, and actually I should mention also the Q settings because they're important also. The Q is set to 1.22, and this will translate to any EQ, really, it doesn't matter. Then for the mids, I do a cut at 2200 Hertz of 1.5 dB at 0.8 Q. Then I do another cut of 0.9 dB at 4.6 kilohertz, 4,600 hertz with a Q of 1. And then I did a boost of 2 decibels as a high shelf at 7,600 hertz. Let me show you what this sounds like, and this actually gets you close enough to what is my reference that you can actually also use these really good for mixing. So this is with my adaptive curve on. And this is how the AIAIAI headphones, well actually this would be the normal sound of my AIAIAI. So what I'm going to show you now is what I do to these headphones, which is a combination also of course of the default processing that this does, which I can show you now quickly so you can have a listen. This is the changes that it's done. Let me show you before. So it has some peaks. The purple stuff is the peaks or the troughs. The purple stuff is the unprocessed signal. And then the calibration curve is what SoundID reference does to balance out these TMA1 Studio headphones. And then my personal curve to make this better is here. So it's not huge, but it makes a difference. That's my flat target, and as you can tell, it also has a slight dip in the mids. I'm not such a fan of listening to mids really loud all the time because it just does my ears in, but these did need a little high boost actually to match with the sound that I am used to getting from Slate VSX. So if you have Sonarworks ID reference, this workflow works really well. Unfortunately, I can't share this preset with you, which is why I showed you the frequency curves, because if I drop you my preset file, it won't open on your version, which is, I'm sorry, but you'll just have to copy it using the frequency plot points that I gave you. But yeah, this will enable you not only to mix better on headphones, but especially also on speakers. Now, because I stream a lot of stuff on YouTube, I normally actually don't do this in the DAW. I normally do this using this tool called Loopback, which allows you to send digital audio streams throughout your system. And rather than send the output of Ableton straight to my audio interface, what I actually do is send it to SoundID reference system-wide, so that then anything I'm listening to, whether it's like, a YouTube video or like a reference track or whatever, everything is then running through here. This is my setting for my speakers. The only downside of this is, and I don't know why, it has massive latency, as you can see here. It has 100 milliseconds latency, apparently. That's what it's saying, even though the filter is set to 0 latency. I don't know if this is a bug or if it's a feature, but yeah, I don't notice it. Like, I don't feel like this may be reporting an error here, because I don't actually feel like I notice that there's a huge additional latency coming through my system. But like, if you want to have this adaptive curve added to your system everywhere, not just in your DAW as a plugin, there is this SoundID reference plugin, which then allows you to route somewhere. And Rogue Amoeba has a different plugin, which actually allows you to host a VST or AU plugin, if I'm remembering correctly, straight in that software, and then you could add it there. But because I have to manage a lot of streams with Zoom calls and stuff, this is the tool that I use. I know this can be unconventional, and where I got into this was listening to a video about Roger Quested, who is the designer of these speakers, amongst other amazing speakers. And George of Fantastic Tales of Pro Audio mentioned that he would use like a pretty affordable Behringer controller to like do EQ curves and stuff to match those speakers to the room. And then I started thinking like, well, if he's doing that, then why don't I do that? And once I started doing this, basically what it meant is every time I press play on my system and hear reference tracks in this room, I'm just like, yes, this sounds so great. All the reference tracks sit into the ballpark of, they just sound great in the room. And I can tell some tracks have a bit more bass than the others, some are a bit brighter, etc., etc. But now when I produce through that same EQ curve, and then of course export and bounce it and listen to that master in my car or whatever, all my problems that I used to have of adding too much low end or too much low warms or not enough highs and mids are gone, because I've counterbalanced that through the EQ curve that I now add on the way to my monitoring system. So if you're struggling to get your mixes to translate and you have reasonable monitors or headphones, try this. It costs you nothing except loading an EQ plugin and tuning it to your taste. And it's a huge studio hack, I think, one that I've somehow come to realize way too late. I mean, I used to do this when I would tune festival sound systems. You put a big graphic EQ on them and tune the system until it feels right with every track. I don't know why in the studio we tend to have the maybe feeling like, oh, if I'm going to, do that, I'm going to mess something up. No, it actually does make things better. And yes, you can hear the EQing and crossover points and stuff, but what you win, I think, unless you have an incredible room and an incredibly tuned soffit mounted speaker type situation, what you win in like a medium to good room is worth it. It is absolutely worth it. So I hope that this video helps you, gives you an idea of something you could do to optimize your monitoring system in your room. And of course, you're not going to be able to pump 30 hertz out of small 5-inch speakers. So be careful with your curves that you don't do boosts that are going to put your speakers all the way at the limit. But if you can get your monitoring system so that your references sound great in your room no matter what, you will be on your way to much better mixes and masters. All right, I hope this video has been helpful. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Please like and subscribe and share this video and all that stuff. If you got something from this, we appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.